WNST, Towson Week here as we head off to Lambeau Field this weekend. Talking a lot of Packers football around here, but also want to talk about the NFL in general. This is one of my favorite guys to do it with. He's out at Sporting News. He's the NFL fantasy football writer there, but he's covering power ranking. He's tweeting out there on Twitter as well at Vinnie Iyer. That's VINNIEIYER. He's one of our defending champions, as well as a Jeopardy winner and loser. Dude, you just added this to your Twitter resume. I mean, I see you as studious and someone that could be a Jeopardy champion, but do tell before we begin all this. I want to be impressed by you, Vin.
Yeah, now it's almost going on 20 years. It's hard to believe it was back in college. So when you look at that, I wasn't in the college tournament, but just decided to try out on a whim, and it worked out and won some bucks that put away for a while and has helped me in the future. So can't complain about that. It's a long time ago.
Do they let you back on? I mean, I know they have, like, returning champions and stuff. I mean, why not go back and try to win some more dough, Vin?
Yeah, it's really hard. There's actually people that are very careful about watching the repeat players. I think somebody tried to do that a couple of years ago, but this was before they doubled their money, so that tells you how long ago it was that all the board values are now doubled. So I can make an argument that I haven't had a chance at this version of the game, so maybe one day that'd be a great thing to go back to.
Now you got a picture with Alex Trebek. That's all that matters, right?
Yeah, that really does. And the check that he gave you, that's also pretty important.
Well, I mean, go for the dough. That's what I would say. Look, we're going for the dough around here. I mean, 4-5, the Ravens head to Green Bay, and you'd say, all right, well, they're 4-5. How good could they be in any given year? Boy, in this year in the AFC, 4-5 has you in a catbird seat when you have the kind of schedule that the Ravens have coming up. Backup quarterback this week. They'll get a backup quarterback with Houston. Obviously, they still have Cleveland, Indianapolis on the schedule, a late game with Cincinnati at home. There are a lot of winnable games for the Ravens, but, Chicago was winnable, and Tennessee was winnable, and Jacksonville, they're all winnable until you have to go and play them. But there is something enticing about heading off to Lambeau Field this weekend without having to see Aaron Rodgers that opens up the possibilities to say, well, how can the Ravens go in and steal this football game on Sunday?
Yeah, this is a game that the Ravens really need, because you look at how the AFC is shaking out, and it's actually working in their favor. You mentioned the backup quarterbacks. Keep in mind that got a big break by facing E.J. Manuel early in the season out in Oakland, and Matt Moore in a short week there. So those are the two teams that coincidentally, Dolphins and Raiders, that are also 4-5. So to have that tiebreaker in hand is already a big deal, and the Buffalo Bills don't look like they want to hold that spot at number 6 at 5-4. They've been looking pretty bad and more what people expected here in the past couple of weeks. So everything is right there for the Ravens to make a big rise in the playoffs coming up. Bye, well timed. Maybe getting Danny Woodhead back, which could be a big spark to the offense when they need it. So when you look at this Packers matchup, it's there. It's a team that if you can put together some competent offense, they're not very good defensively, and you can beat them. And the Bears struggled with doing that, and I think the Ravens should pride themselves on being a better offensive team at the moment than Chicago.
Well, and certainly there's been a whole lot of, we lost to Chicago a couple weeks ago too. So, there's been a lot of talk around here about the offense and about how it gets better. And, part of it's the offensive line and Marshall Yanda and, having the right kind of, but Watson, Macklin, Wallace, these are veteran guys. All of them may have seen their better days, and even Flacco. And I'll agree to all of the above, but these are credible players. They're not out there playing with third string, and no disrespect to Michael Campanaro, Chris Moore, Griff Whalen, but that's what the wide receiving core was 3 weeks ago. It's not that anymore, and I think that puts even more pressure on Flacco to produce here, because starting players are out there now, and the offensive line has not been the sieve that it was earlier when the injuries first happened and they were struggling after Marshall Yanda. I mean, they sort of had their sea legs under them to some degree, and they also have a running back in Alex Collins who has run the ball hard when given the opportunity, but they've been really out of whack pass run, throwing the ball 50 times and running it 20 times. That's never going to be a recipe. If that's where they're going to go at Lambeau on Sunday, they're going to lose.
Yeah, it's very good to have all these positive things happening at the same time. The offense that they really wanted to run way back in week 1 might actually be out there in week 11. So when you consider all that, that's a positive sign. And when you look at the Ravens are always in the mix for this last wildcard spot. I mean, we know consistently they made the playoffs with John Harbaugh and Joe Flacco for many years there before that streak was snapped. But when they haven't been right there, they've always been in the mix with these weaker teams in the AFC. It seems like the number 6 is always quite available in this conference with a record that's even as good as 9-7. So,
well, 8-8 might get in at this point. I mean, the more I look at it and say, who's going to get to 8 wins out of all these teams? I mean, Buffalo's the closest, but I don't know that they're going to get to 8.
No, and then the tiebreakers are key, and you do all the permutations and all that in the end. If you take care of business against your direct competition, that's what's going to get you in.
He is Vinnie Iyer. He's out at Sporting News. He's one of our defending champions around here. You can follow him out on Twitter at Vinnie Iyer. That's VINNIEIYER. All of our WNST programming this week brought to you by GNA, Coney Island Hot Dogs in Highlandtown. Hot dogs and more. Andy does breakfast over there, and he's been bragging about these French fries and gravy over there. So I got to get over to Highlandtown. You can learn more at GNArestaurant.com. And if you're anywhere near Andy up in Highlandtown, tell him that we said hello. Also brought to you by Lee Tessier and his team at Keller Williams American Premier Realty. List your home with Lee Tessier and you risk nothing. His team will get your house sold. You can learn more at leetessier.com or even stop by the location up there in Abingdon and visit with them. Lee Tessier and his team at Keller Williams American Premier Realty. Vinnie Iyer is our guest here. He's got power rankings out there. And, you mentioned the Bills as being, and I mentioned the Bills as being in the catbird right now and how horrible they looked against the Saints. I had a rare weekend, Vinnie. I travel with the team. I'll be in Lambeau this week, and I was in Nashville before that, Minnesota before that. I had a weekend to sit and red zone it this week and sit on the couch. I was really, really impressed by the Saints, in both ways. Not that Buffalo's any great shakes, but I remember for most of my lifetime, the New Orleans Saints, no matter who their quarterback was, no matter how good or how bad their team was, trying to come out and play in a 30-degree day in Buffalo, that's never gone well. That was a really, really impressive victory for the Saints on Sunday, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they came out just doing what they wanted, imposing their will, so to speak, with their running game, with their defensive line, their offensive line. Everything was clicking. And this is what the Saints have been doing for a while now since they lost to the Patriots badly in Week 2. Once they started figuring out how their defense could play together better, then it's all been right in the hands of the offense. They can play the ball control. They don't have to drop back Drew Brees and have him throw 40 to 50 times to win games. They're fine with him throwing 20 to 25 times. With the way Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara are running, no one expected them to be this great of a duo. When you had the Adrian Peterson curveball there early in the season, it seems like as soon as they moved that and that frustration of trying to force Peterson in there, that they could play Kamara a lot more. Ingram was relaxed and could run a little harder without looking over his shoulder. And I think that has been just as key for their start as anything else.
Vinnie, for the New England Patriots and watching them as well, again, sit on the couch and I watch all these other teams. I bought into the Patriots weren't very good because I saw them play back in September. I saw their defense. I saw the kind of points they were giving up. I got to tell you, the way they dissected Denver, and I don't think Denver's defense, it's a shadow of what we saw out in San Francisco 2 years ago when they were winning Super Bowls out there. But I was very, very impressed by the Patriots. I'm very concerned that, you and I are going to be spending 9 days freezing our asses off in Minneapolis, and here come the Patriots again. I am worried about that.
Yeah, it's a team that no one is completely sold that they're going to be out of it. It doesn't matter if they start slow and start 0-1, if they might have some defensive issues during the season, or if they're banged up going into the playoffs. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter if they're facing a big deficit, say 24-3 in the Super Bowl. It just doesn't work that way where they can ever count them out. It's kind of like a video game villain. You really have to make sure that you cut the head off and make sure that the body is down there as well.
I was thinking more like Halloween, like John Carpenter, you know what I mean? Like that guy, just kept coming back,
Yeah, they're just kind of like zombies, if you say that. Tom Brady's probably as old as a zombie at this point, but it doesn't. They don't look like it. They're just relentless. They're going to come at you, and Brady what can you say? He's leading the NFL in passing yards at age 40 and having no drop-off at all.
Well, as much as we'll talk about Brady, as much as we'll talk about Breeze, I think the real story for the league this year, other than the injuries, other than Goodell fighting with everybody and Jones and Blank fighting on the field, off the field, all that stuff, but the Jared Goff, Carson Wentz story, and look, you and I go back a long ways. I think we were together in Indianapolis a year and a half ago when those guys were taking the podium, and Carson Wentz was favorably comparing himself to Joe Flacco being a small school guy and all that stuff. He winds up in Joe Flacco's hometown. They wind up at 8-1 right now. Everybody's buying into that. I had Billick on earlier this week. His old Rams out in L.A. Everybody's buying into that. It really is it hasn't been a great NFL year in a lot of ways, from the knee and all the injuries and all the bad stuff. But amidst all the thorns come a few roses. The Eagles and the Rams have put these franchises on the map with franchise quarterbacks, and they are going to be the teams we're going to be watching the next 8 weeks here.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what has happened in the NBA. It's been a bunch of young superstars, the next generation that has come around. Sometimes a league needs that, a bit of a reboot. You see the same old names. You see Peyton Manning hanging up, who's going to take the torch for the next generation. Then you have Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott and Derek Carr and Deshaun Watson. Hopefully he'll come back healthy to be the superstar as well. But just this next generation of stars, they're exciting. I mean, you already have Cam Newton that's established, Russell Wilson, goes on, and then you have guys like Brady and Breeze who are kind of reinventing themselves and playing better as well. So in the end, every league is driven by how many superstars you have, players that people want to see play no matter who they're playing. And I think the NFL is reminding people that it's a bit of a changing of guard there, but there's going to be those guys coming through in next waves all the time.
He is Vinnie Iyer, out on Twitter as well as at Sporting News. This portion of our WNST programming brought to you by Compass Point Golf Course in Pasadena. It is the best place to play this fall and winter. I know the leaves are changing, the weather's there. They're always there and open for you. Events, friendly folks, craft beers. Don't forget the turkey shoot next Friday as well. You can learn more at Compass Point Golf. They are in Pasadena, probably 15 minutes away from wherever you are if you want to go play a little golf here this week or this weekend. Also, brought to you by our friends at Box Hill Pizzeria. The best crab cakes in Harford County can now be shipped anywhere, including Charlotte, North Carolina, down to Vinnie Iyer. You can learn more at boxhillpizzeria.com, but don't believe that. It's a crab cakeria. If you see Tommy or Chris or any of the guys up there, tell them to ship me down some salad dressing. I'm getting dangerously low with the Thanksgiving holiday coming. boxhillpizzeria.com. Vinnie Iyer's got a great piece up with Power Rankings this week. He certainly has the Philadelphia Eagles, much like everybody else, at the top of the Power Rankings. But I see you sneaking your Carolina Panthers, and I do know you live in that Charlotte area, up into the top 8 right now, and I watched Cam Newton run around the other night. Dude, I know we've been through this before. He's such a clown. You know what I mean? Like, he is the ultimate villain for me, and a great villain, unlike Ric Flair. Ric Flair wins championships. I don't think Cam Newton's ever going to win, so I think it's a lot of fun to sort of root against him. I don't know what the jerk factor in him is, but I watched him run around on Monday night, and I dislike him more than I've ever disliked him. And I disliked him a lot on Super Bowl Sunday when he didn't die for the ball either.
Yeah, I think what brings that on is easily the fact that he's a front runner. When things are going well, it's all joking and smiles and being funny and trying to give you the good one-liners. But then you got to have that same professionalism and upbeat attitude when things are going not your way. And I think that's where the frustrating thing is. I think you see a lot of quarterbacks in the league. They have a bad day, they're still upbeat and happy. I mean, on the other side of things, you couldn't tell that Jay Cutler's team got destroyed in that game. When he talks about it, he's like, oh, we still have a chance to get in the playoffs. So say all you want about Jay Cutler and his actions and demeanor, but as a veteran quarterback to stand up and take a loss, I think you learn a lot more about how a quarterback takes a loss versus how a quarterback takes a win.
Well, and I know he's beloved down there in your region. You live down in Charlotte, Vinny, and I know, for the Panthers to get back up this year after what happened last year, this is exciting down there because the Falcons certainly 2-game lead now, got a bye week coming up. Tampa sort of disappeared, and they're not in this, but the Saints have really been the story there. I mean, they've really emerged in a way that I don't think any of us saw the Saints thing coming, right?
No, not at all. And really it started in the game against the Panthers where they found their identity and got rolling and said, hey, we can be a good defense, we can be a dominant running team. And this is interesting. This division now is pretty much all about the running game. You look at what the Panthers were able to do there against the Dolphins, run all over them. You got the Saints running all over the Bills, the Falcons. Missing Devonta Freeman is going to hurt there a little bit, but they got Tevin Coleman, and that running game has a lot of potential as well. So I think this is teams that you look at the three quarterbacks as guys that have been to the Super Bowl before, but you look at the running games and defense, the team that has the best of both of those is going to end up on top.
Vinnie Iyer joining us here from Sporting News. You can follow him out on Twitter at Vinnie Iyer. That's VINNIEIYER. I'm going to bring it full circle here. We talked a little bit about the Ravens, but certainly going up to play this Packers team with a backup quarterback, suspect running game, suspect defense, especially in the secondary, and a lot of problems there. This is a different version of the Packers than maybe what we had circled back in April when we thought, oh my God, Lambeau Field, cold weather, Aaron Rodgers, we're in trouble. I think there's a sense of optimism as I get on the airplane to go up to Milwaukee on Saturday and make that pilgrimage up there to Lambeau Field, that this is a different version of the Packers. I know we're going to get the Lions here in 2 weeks as well coming up. We've already lost to Minnesota and Chicago, so it's not like the NFC North has been any gift to the Ravens here, but this is as kind as a trip to Green Bay could possibly be in this era, going back to Brett Favre. If you go to Green Bay and get their backup quarterback, hadn't been a whole lot of that going on up there in the last 20 years, man.
No, yeah, you got to take advantage of that. You've seen the Saints do that. You've seen the Lions do that. So it's just not as intimidating when you don't have a defense. You're not scared of a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. It's a completely different Green Bay mystique that's totally gone at the moment. So you got to get that out of your head right away. Fly out of the gate. Get off to a good start. Don't let the Packers hang around and get some confidence early, because Brett Hundley, as you'd expect, with a young quarterback and a good offense, is starting to find his way, but you got to put him back into frustration mode with your defense early.
Rams in Minnesota is a big game of the week now, isn't it? Who would have guessed that back in April, right?
Yeah, the Rams don't lose on the road. Apparently, they don't really lose much at home anymore either. But looking at this, it's interesting where Jared Goff and Case Keenum were last year on a free-falling Rams team as the starters, and now they're facing each other, playing pretty well with two 7-2 teams. So this league, that pretty much sums up the league right there.
Well, the Minnesota thing's wild. I was there a couple weeks ago. They're all gassed up about the Super Bowl up there. They have a legitimate chance. I mean, they're going to be playing in January with some quarterback. I don't know if it's going to be Keenum or Bridgewater or whatever. Certainly that defense is going to travel wherever they go. The Vikings are going to have a chance to host in their own stadium. I mean, that's unto itself sort of a unique, fun thing, I think, for January.
Yeah, definitely, and it's been working out well for them. We're in Green Bay. Unfortunately, suffered a big loss. It changed the tide of maybe the whole season, because he went down in the game against the Vikings and allowed them to kind of cruise to victory from that point, and that changed the whole dynamic of the NFC North. But one thing I'll throw out there is the Lions. Remember that win they had up in Minnesota several weeks ago? It could be a big factor here. The Lions are still only a couple games out. I think when you look overall, should they be the best team in the division? It's true with the way Matthew Stafford is playing and the way their defense is capable of playing. So that's something I want to see develop in the second half. Is Minnesota going to keep holding up Case Keenum? When are they going to go to Teddy Bridgewater? Do they have to do that if they struggle offensively at some point? And is Matthew Stafford going to keep up his play and not cool down the rest of the way?
Well, as I said, I mean, the Vikings have a built-in quarterback controversy. It's sitting there and it's waiting to bloom or blossom just based on week to week how Case Keenum's doing, right? I mean, that's an awkward situation for Zimmer, but the whole thing's been awkward. They're on their third quarterback, for crying out loud, and they're in a catbird position here to maybe, have home field advantage in the playoffs and get themselves a bye. This is one of those games that's going to matter a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Keenum, I would say he has a relatively long leash right now. I don't think those 2 picks there at the end of the Washington game are really going to affect him too much, given how well he played for most of the rest of the game. So that was a key performance for him to go on the road and win that game. This is just as big when it's going to be on him. You have a high-powered Rams offense on the other side. He's his former team. There know some things about him. I know it's a different coaching staff, but still, the tendencies are all going to be there with Aaron Donald and some guys that were his teammates. So the pressure's on with all the timing with Bridgewater and all that, the way he's playing, that Keenan simply cannot let up. He's got to keep doing what he's doing.
You can follow Vinny out at Sporting News as well as at Vinnie Iyer. That's Iyer on the last name, Vinnie out on Twitter. Always great to visit with you. Now that I know you're defending a Jeopardy champion, I did not know that about you. I'm glad you updated your Twitter bio. That I may come with some open-ended questions for you, some final Jeopardy questions next time, okay?
Yeah, I'll be ready. You can throw whatever you want. So it's all good.
I'll even sing the little song for you. Great to have you on, Vinny. Have a great week, man.
All right, bye.
You got it. Vinnie Iyer out there, the fantasy football writer at Sporting News, as well as the host of Locked On Network at Fantasy Football. You can find him on Twitter at Vinnie Iyer. You can find me out in the BuyAToyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. Our morning newspaper ships to your email inbox digitally at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Big thanks to our friends at Costas and CJ Mosley for coming out, swabbing, radioing. There goes my hero, and getting it all together with some crabs and some crab cakes, some cold beer, and some good cheer as well. Our tech service. I don't want to forget about that. Any breaking news happens, it happens first on the WNST tech service. It's all brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And, of course, Dennis Colazzos. We'll be here getting you ready for Lambeau Field this weekend. Thursday from 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST. I am Nestor. I'm a very available individual, even here in the offseason for the Orioles. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNS TV channel. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.